I'm here with Will Sansom, from a writer and consultant at Contagious magazine, talking a little bit about what he's doing here in Kyoto. What is this session you're running about?
So the session I'm running is called Contagious Thinking, and it's basically a look at some of the most important trends that we've identified in the last 6 months, along with some sort of best practice case study examples with brands across the world to show how those are kind of working within those trends and creating great work that really resonates with consumers in kind of new, meaningful and relevant ways. So a really big one is marketing and service design I'm going to be talking about. This is the idea of brands moving from a product dominant logic to a service dominant logic. A brand like Nike makes a pair of sneakers, the person engages with the brand for as long as it takes to buy the sneakers, doesn't then engage with the brand until they need to replace them a year later. Look at something like Nike Fuel Band, which is the new band they've launched that lets you monitor how much kind of exercise you're doing and then tap into an online infrastructure to kind of track your progress. That's interesting because they're using these digital services to engage people on almost a daily basis.
Next trend.
Next thing I'm going to be talking about is augmented experiences. This is basically the idea that if you want to try and add in these layers of service or utility, it's quite tricky because people don't sit still anymore. They don't consume media in neat silos. You know, they scatter their lives across multiple kind of platforms and touch points. So it's really the idea that you can augment people's experience of things, whether it's the way they consume traditional media or it's an experience they have in the real world. A lot of that's going to be obviously fairly mobile-based stuff, but I'll be looking at this kind of multi-screening behavior and actually kind of trying to turn that on its head and think, is mobile really the second screen or is it now the first screen? So a really good example is what Coke did during the Super Bowl. They created a bespoke site called the Coke Polar Bowl, where 2 interactive polar bears were there reacting to all the content in the game as it happened. You could watch the bears on your iPad as you were watching the game, and they reacted to everything. They had control of the Coke Twitter feed, so you could tweet at them, they would respond to you. They even reacted to other brands' ads, falling asleep during the Pepsi ad, things like this, and it was great, and the engagement figures were absolutely staggering. The average engagement time was something like 28 minutes, and when you consider that a 30-second spot during the Super Bowl is $3.5 million, and you do the maths, what's 28 minutes worth? It's quite staggering. So that's the power of augmenting experiences.
Okay, third trend.
Third trend I'm going to be looking at is called social born and bred. It's really a look at some of the more kind of digitally and socially native brands out there, the kind of young guys who have been born into this kind of environment and who are doing things really that are subverting traditional models and not just kind of being smart in social media, but just acting, behaving, or kind of just doing business in a fundamentally social way.
Examples would be?
Great example is from Vankel, which is one of the most popular online fashion retailers in China. They've got a system called Vankel Star, which is where they get fashion bloggers and influencers. They then ask them to become Vankel stars on the site. So they create profiles, they take pictures of themselves wearing Vankel clothing. People can look at all these different profiles, click through and buy products from those profiles. If they do, that Vankel star, that blogger, gets 10% from every sale made. So it's essentially commission-driven advocacy, but it's just wielding the immense kind of social power that these influencers have in a way that benefits the brand, the influencers, and the consumer.
How easy is it going to be for more traditional companies to make that shift? Or do they all have to be this sort of nifty new startup?
I think it's a really good question. Without doubt, it's easier for the young guys because they're used to operating like that. And if you look at some of the biggest brands, biggest conglomerates, it can feel like steering an oil tanker to a certain degree. And I think it's why we've seen a load of innovation labs, these kind of skunk worksy kind of operations within bigger brands cropping up. I think that it doesn't have to be huge steps that are made. You can take baby steps, and that can be as simple as just thinking, right, how are we engaging with people via something like social media? Are we just using it as another channel through which to kind of sell and promote stuff to people? Or are we actually being social in it? Are we listening? Are we helping? Are we giving people stuff? Are we being generous? And just things like that are basics can really help to trigger some fundamental changes with the world's biggest brands, but it is going to be a slow burner.
Okay, so there's a lot of exciting new things out there, but there is still hope for the more established brands.
I'd like to think so.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.